I just posted the news about looking up at U8's entry into the US market. This is not, are you coming to live now? What do you have to be arrogant about? Mercedes-Benz Big G has started publicly playing field turns on the streets of the United States. There are still 4 cars turning around in place. Look at the speed of that turn, like a circus teasing a cat. Is there any way to play like this? Open the comment section and take a look. This spicy someone said. Mercedes-Benz is Big G. The speed of spinning is much faster than looking up at U8. You see, Mercedes-Benz Big G has a lot of technical content. That's what they said. Look, there isn't any, only Mercedes-Benz is the true technology. The other person also said, the function of turning around in place, first of all, it was developed by Mercedes-Benz Big G. It's not BYD. Ouch. Oh my goodness. You aristocrats really haven't seen much of the world before. I'll say it again, turning around in place is just a byproduct, electric control of the motor, 120 km/h front tire blowout. It can still drive normally, safety is the greatest luxury. The Mercedes-Benz electric Big G has indeed been upgraded. Originally, turning around in place could only be achieved on low adhesion terrain such as sandy or grassland. And now, for now, there has indeed been an upgrade. It can also be changed to quickly turn around in place. But the problem is, soul, oh my soul. It's like me and Liu Shang wearing the same set of clothes. Do I have Liu Zhang's 110-meter hurdle crossing ability, even if Liu Shang and I wore the same clothes to challenge the 110-meter hurdle? I don't have that soul. Estimate crossing the first column. This uploader also needs to throw a dog and eat shit. The high probability of electric Mercedes-Benz's Big G is like this. Just playing a flower job. Do you really want him to have a tire burst at 120 km/h and give it a try? And this car, we haven't started mass production yet. How much does it really cost? Do you want electric Mercedes-Benz to sell for 1.08 million yuan? Excuse me, has anyone bought it? Moreover, is there an electric Mercedes-Benz with emergency float function looking up at U8? Really, this thing is the last technological afterglow under the old industrial system of the West. The Mercedes-Benz Big G that can rotate can only be closed. The backward American market is just showing off its skills there. Bring it to the Chinese market. How about not being beaten 180 times? Besides, the speed turns so fast. Have you ever considered the driver's feelings? A blogger said it well. Mercedes-Benz Big G. What is the soul? Finally, stop and shake. That's the essence of this car. Mr. Guo is not so happy anymore. This year's Foxconn. This year's recruitment. But it's a deserted place. The scene of hunger in the past. It has long disappeared since the beginning of this year. Foxconn's production capacity in mainland China has been reduced by nearly 1/3, layoffs of 400,000 people. What exactly happened to Mr. Guo, moving Foxconn to India? Is it also a reliable choice? Foxconn's move to India. It was a big trap dug by Mr. Guo himself. He was actually deceived, clearing the old accounts together. In fact, over the years, Foxconn has always been in China. Many regions turn a blind eye to this. I didn't take many of the issues to heart. Ultimately, there are still 3 issues: taxation, land, regulations. The land owned by Foxconn, even surpassing some real estate companies. The tax reduction policy also benefits from this. Wherever you go, thousands of job opportunities and contributions to GDP. Many countries turn a blind eye to this. However, since Mr. Guo insists on leaving, then take the previous accounts. Let's calculate everything. Starting from 2022, local leaders at all levels will send people to inspect taxation. In terms of land use and other aspects, all of them are of utmost importance. although there is no fine yet, but it can also be considered hitting Mr. Guo's face, especially when General Manager Guo openly referred to Foxconn as a feast for food in China. The Chinese authorities have become even more determined to seek justice from him. The sale of apples. Everyone believes that with the support of General Manager Guo, Foxconn's position in China, it will become more stable. Foxconn has also invested a lot of capital in Apple, want to enter the Indian market. However, what Mr. Guo didn't expect was that this Apple doesn't seem to be as loyal to him as he thought. Not only because Apple did not allocate all orders to Foxconn, but it is intentional to allow other competitors such as Lixin Precision and Asus to share. What disappointed Mr. Guo even more was that they are also very interested in local Indian companies. They want to cultivate more companies like Foxconn in India. Apple CEO Cook has also publicly stated that, by 2025, he will shift 25% of his world production capacity to India. It seems like Mr. Guo is also good. Foxconn is also good. It's like a nail that can be easily replaced. Indian workers are not satisfied. In fact, everyone knows the situation in India. Come quickly. Go too fast. Go too fast. Chinese companies once suffered heavy losses there. Mr. Guo spent a lot of money. I bought a lot of land. Many new factories have been built. But recruitment work is very difficult. Indian employees often protest. Mr. Guo was so anxious that his hair was covered in white. A few years have passed. Foxconn only has 40 employees in India. People. They are still far from their expectations. What's even more outrageous is that currently, domestic companies, surprisingly, they openly poached people from Foxconn, old companies in India. Not long ago, I just bought a contract manufacturing factory that has a grudge against Foxconn. And in front of Mr. Guo, speak in public, we need to poach 20% of Foxconn's people. Isn't this just a direct blow to Mr. Guo's pain point? BYD has taken the lead in the domestic market. Especially in recent years, BYD has emerged as a rising star, entering the production and manufacturing field of consumer electronics products. Snatched away all the brilliance of Foxconn after BYD acquired China's fourth largest contract factory, Jeep, for 15.8 billion yuan. Foxconn's dominant position in the global market is under threat. Moreover, BYD also snatched Huawei's OEM factory from Foxconn. This has led to a significant increase in Huawei's product sales, even affecting Apple's dominant position. It can be said that Mr. Guo's current state, on a national scale, his foundation is constantly being shaken. As for the Indian side, Guo always thinks his territory is very cute, very smart, but his plan, destroyed by India. Now Foxconn is in a dilemma. It's really self-inflicted and impossible to live. The adverse consequences of Guo Taming's erroneous judgments and decisions, blindly imitating, it will only make oneself unable to eat and walk around. Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer BYD is preparing an electric vehicle factory in Mexico, according to foreign media reports such as Reuters. BYD is considering setting up a new electric vehicle factory in Mexico, and based on this, officially enter the US and even global markets. It is reported that, with deep control over the entire industry chain, independent research and development capabilities, a diverse product lineup, ultra-high product strength, BYD has surpassed its biggest competitor Tesla, becoming the world's #1 electric vehicle manufacturer in terms of sales. 2024 is a year for BYD to stride into overseas markets. Old established automotive industry countries such as Europe, America, Japan, and South Korea. There are plans for BYD to advance. Currently, a feasibility study has been conducted on the Mexican factory, We are currently in negotiations with relevant parties regarding specific conditions, including the location of the factory, the general manager of BYD Mexico stated in an interview with foreign media that overseas production is an indispensable and necessary factor for international brands. But the official statement from the branch company was rejected. According to the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, enterprises exporting electric vehicles to the United States can enjoy tax exemption benefits when purchasing over 75% of their components in North America. Recently, due to rising labor costs in the United States and other reasons, the establishment of a factory in Mexico is very favorable for BYD in many aspects. Tesla is precisely for this reason. We are building a gigabit factory in Mexico. Additionally, major American car companies have warned that Chinese cars will bring themselves a catastrophic disaster. Last month, Tesla CEO Elon Musk predicted that Chinese automotive companies will end their global competitors without trade barriers. The United States Manufacturers Group has released a report stating that it has received policy support from China. Chinese automobiles supported by funds, rapidly developing and growing. If you enter the U.S. market, ultimately, it will become a crisis event for the U.S. automotive sector facing extinction. Additionally, BYD plans to invest $620 million in a new industrial park in northeastern Brazil. 3 factory parks will be built on the land previously used by Ford in the northeast of Bahia. Additionally, there are other reasons for choosing to build a factory in Mexico. SAIC-MG, Chinese car companies such as Chery have already established complete vehicle manufacturing plants in Mexico. Mexico is a stronghold in the North American automotive market. It is also the 7th largest automobile producing country in the world and the 5th largest automobile parts producing country, having abundant metal minerals and talent resources. According to statistics, Mexico is the 2nd largest export destination for Chinese cars after Russia. The total number of exported vehicles reached 334,000. BYD officially entered the Mexican passenger car market in March 2023. Afterwards, Dolphins were successively listed locally, Seal and other vehicle models. Recently, my friend asked me how goals is. He wants to upgrade and exchange cars. I also talked to him. I said, why don't you think about it? Be more daring, considering that looking up at U8 is also over 1 million. But they said, I used to get used to driving Mercedes-Benz. Not long after, he brought up the top of the line for 5.0, but from the sales data, looking up at the sales of U8, it's actually quite good. So who would actually buy it? Because spending over 1 million yuan to buy a domestically produced car, in the eyes of many people, it is unacceptable. I am also curious about this. I flipped through the data online again, then I also asked the people on BYD's side, the feedback we received from them, including the data I have collected myself. Basically, by looking up U8, many of them used to drive cars with similar prices, for example, like Golf, BMW X7, cars like the Land Rover Cayenne, because they have already had relevant experiences. Then take a look up again. Indeed, it seems that, for example, the floating function, turn around in place, and then these things, in terms of functionality, stronger than cars in the same price range as before. In addition, as ordinary people, maybe buy a car, I'm still worried that the price may drop. Will there be backstabbing? But being able to buy a car worth over 1 million yuan, his economic level is still acceptable, so we are not as sensitive to this area as we are. I don't care so much. Perhaps it's more about feeling one's hobbies. Secondly, besides being brave enough to try something new, another point is that domestic brands are relatively recognized. They gave me one. They recently conducted an interview activity to look up at car owners. I found that, actually, there are quite a few of them. Firstly, his income level is good. In addition, his educational background, in terms of the overall level of education, it seems that everyone is pretty good, this group of people. And it's important to note that they have a relatively strong support for our entire independent brand, for our entire domestic economic environment, including industries, even some public welfare matters. They are still a group of people that they care about, from the materials they provided, and based on the information I have collected. Really? You said you got rich. He must have been the first to go straight. It's those Mercedes-Benz cars, Porsche and similar. He won't buy a new brand, especially for our independent brand. Additionally, if itself, perhaps for domestic brands, we don't have so much emotional attachment to our independent brand. He probably wouldn't buy it either. More often, he thinks I don't need to take risks for a domestic brand. After all, like mature ones, you go buy a Mercedes-Benz anyway. Everyone knows this Mercedes-Benz, right? And you're driving such a big Mercedes. Everyone knows that your car is worth over $1,000,000 yuan, right? So I saw a friend jokingly saying, "Are there any nouveau rich looking up to buy?" It is estimated that there are not many nouveau rich. Yes, 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 but more likely, there are still some entrepreneurs, including the one I saw in their interview. Actually, I used to work on engineering. Later on, I started my own business, so these types of people may be a bit more inclined, and I found out about age, the mainstream population exactly.